Paul's letter to the Philippians is full of warm encouragement and serious reminders. In chapter 1 he urged these Christians to rejoice in faith and stand strong together, as we see in Philippians chapter 1 verses 25 to 27. When we turn to chapter 2, he digs even deeper. He shows what real unity looks like by pointing us to the greatest example, Jesus himself. This chapter could honestly be called From Glory to Glory. Why? Well, because it begins with the glory Christ had in heaven before he came to earth, then describes his humble sacrifice, and finally ends with his return to glory at God's right hand. Let's walk step by step through these verses and see what Paul wanted his readers, and us, to learn. Paul starts by reminding the Philippians of everything they already shared in Christ. He lists 4 ifs that don't express doubt but are appeals to what they knew was true. First, if there is any encouragement in Christ, and there certainly is, Jesus is always there to help and comfort. Second, if there is any comfort of love, the love God has shown and we share with each other. Third, if there is any fellowship in the Spirit that binds us together in God's family. And fourth, if there are any tender mercies and compassion, the kindness that flows out of hearts changed by grace. Since all these blessings were real, Paul pleaded with them to complete his joy by being united, having the same love, the same spirit, and the same purpose, just as it says in verse 2. He then moves to the heart of humility. He tells them, do nothing out of selfish ambition or empty pride. Instead, humbly think of others as more important than yourself, and look out for other people's interests, not just your own, as we see in verses 3 and 4. Paul knew unity isn't just about agreeing on doctrines, it's about hearts shaped by humility. So he finishes this section by saying, let this mind be in you which was also in Christ Jesus, as we read in verse 5. This really sets the stage for one of the most powerful pictures of Jesus in the whole Bible. Here, Paul shows how Jesus moved from heavenly glory to the deepest humility, and then was lifted back to the highest honor. Christ existed in the form of God. He shared God's divine nature and glory, as we see in verse 6, but he didn't cling to his equality with God. He didn't hold on to his rights or privileges. Instead, he emptied himself, not of his deity, but of his heavenly glory. He took the form of a servant and became truly human, just as it says in verse 7. As a man, he humbled himself even further by obeying to the point of death on a cross. That's the lowest point imaginable, the Creator dying like a criminal. But God did not leave him there. God exalted him above everything. God gave him the name above every name, so that every knee in heaven, on earth, and under the earth will bow to Jesus. Every tongue will confess that he is Lord, all to the glory of God the Father. Can you see the breathtaking arc? From heaven's throne to earth's cross, back to heaven's throne, higher than ever. That's the mindset we are called to imitate: humble, self-giving, obedient to God's will, trusting that God will lift us up in the end. After this vision of Christ, Paul turns back to the Philippians. He tells them to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, as it says in verse 12. This doesn't mean we can save ourselves by earning it. It means we must take our walk with God seriously. We keep growing, keep obeying, and keep surrendering to Him. Why should we do this? For it is God who works in you both to will and to do for His good pleasure. In other words, God is at work in you, giving you the desire and the strength to live for Him. You're not alone. You're not left to your own power. Paul knew the Philippians, and all Christians, needed to remember, humility is the soil where unity grows. True unity comes from sharing the mind of Christ. Obedience, even when it costs us, is always worth it, and God will exalt those who humble themselves under His hand. When we live this way, we honor the one who went from heaven's glory to earth's agony and back to glory again. Let's be the people who follow His steps with courage and joy. And let's remember, if we have the mind of Christ, one day we will share in His victory forever.